Hey, good morning and welcome to the Comics Experience Graphic Novel of the Month Club. I'm Brian Hibbs, your host, and we've got a great book. This is the kids' version of the club for December 21, and we've got a really fun book, great book for this month's pick with a great young cartoonist who is Kelly Fernandez, who is right there. Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
Great, how are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Yeah, no, what a great book. This was a real joy to read. I really liked it. So let me ask you the first question. The first question, it's always the same question that I ask everybody. I love this question so much. Why comics? Of all the things that you can be doing, what is it about comics that speaks to you, that fills your heart with joy, that makes you excited?
Well, since I was a little kid, I always loved to draw. And it's like, I don't know, I can't explain it. It's something that just like would draw me in. I started reading like newspaper comics, and it was like I liked the newspaper comics, and it's like it wasn't until I discovered graphic novels really that it clicked, and I was just like, oh, this is what I want to do. This combines like the comics that I see in the newspaper. It combines like TV and movies, and it just brings them all together into this beautiful, I guess, like art form, entertainment, and like that's kind of how I knew. It's really hard to explain in words, but it's something that draws me in, has always drawn me in.
Well, that's great. What was the first comic you remember reading? A newspaper strip, I guess. Which one was it?
I feel like it was either Garfield or Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay.
Because my cousins, they had those like Garfield anthologies,
Right. Yeah.
In their little own personal libraries. But my dad, he had like a treasury of Calvin and Hobbes, and
Nice.
I remember reading through both of those when I was relatively very young.
Yeah.
And being sucked into that.
Yeah. Well, it helps too that they're both really master cartoonists, you know.
Yeah.
And then you said you discovered graphic novels. So what was the first graphic novel you remember reading?
The first graphic novel that I read was Bone by Jeff Smith.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I got it at the Scholastic Book Fair.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was I don't remember the day specifically, but I remember being there and flipping through it and being like, what the heck is this? This is so like, I was just like, oh my God, I need to get this. So whatever little money that my parents gave me, that's what I bought with it. And that was my first graphic novel.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. And did you like go through it like, you know, in a day and then like, I want volume 2 right now?
Yeah, it's like I went through it, and then I would read it over and over again, and I would like look and dissect the pictures, and it was there was definitely that feeling of like I need to find more of this. And I would go to the library. I remember that summer we would go to the library maybe every week, and I would just take out a stack of whatever was there on the shelf, and bring it home and devour it all, and then rinse and repeat the next week. So
yeah, with Bone in particular, you're so lucky because you got to read it as a book. You know, when I read it the first time, it was serialized as a comic book,
yeah.
and it came out every 3 months. There were 20 something pages every
Wow.
3 months, which is you know. It took 7 or 8 years for him to tell the whole story, you know, like that. It was an experience. So when did you decide that you wanted to make comics?
I think when I found out that graphic novels were a thing that can be out in the world, that was when I knew, like, that's when I felt like, oh, this is what I want to be doing. Because as a kid, you know, everybody asks you, what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I kind of wasn't sure yet. I was kind of like, I think I want to be an animator. I think I want to do sorry, I'm like blanking. Oh, I wanted like I was thinking of being like a video game designer because I love
Mm-hmm.
video games. Um, you know, and but I wasn't sure because none of them like really fit me
Yeah.
just right. And then when I found graphic novels, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
newspaper comics, because I was like, maybe I want to be a cartoonist, but I don't really want to do newspaper comics. Like, I kind of want to do more, because in video games, like there's longer stories and they kind of have their ups and downs. There's obviously like humor parts, but I was like kind of like, I wish I can do something like something longer form, like a video game or a movie,
Sure.
but also like in the format and the artistic style of newspaper comics. So
Yeah,
graphic
that's the
novels.
big problem with newspaper comics, right? Is you only have 4 panels, and so if you're telling a continuing story, you almost always have to give the first panel as being the recap of
Yeah,
to catch people up. So then you only have 3 panels to tell a story. It's a tricky way to do serialized or long form stories.
yeah, definitely.
Did so it was always art though for you. Did you study art? Did you go to school for art?
Yeah.
Self-taught? How did it work for you?
When I had art classes as a kid, but they were kind of like um it was like once a week, part of
Yeah.
my like school curricular
Yeah.
um schedule. And in high school, I went to a specialized high school. I went to LaGuardia High School in Manhattan, and that was kind of where I did get like I started my art education. And then
And you
after
and you
that,
and you say it's specialized. What is I don't because I'm not sure what is LaGuardia's specialization?
it's an art school, so
Oh, it
there's
is.
like,
Okay, great.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like all different kinds of art, like including music and
Uh-huh.
theater.
Uh-huh.
But I went there specifically for studio art.
Uh-huh.
So I guess that's like where I started getting like a formal art education, and then in college, I majored in graphic design, um, and yeah, so yeah, in
Nice.
undergrad, I started getting, um, I took like graphic novel courses, illustration courses, um, but my degree is technically graphic design.
Yeah. What kind of graphic novel courses do you take?
It was, they were just kind of called graphic novel one, two, three,
Okay.
and as our textbook, we actually followed. I hope I hope I'm saying the title right. It was writing pictures and drawing words.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that was our
Mhm.
textbook, and Mastering Comics was like our next textbook in graphic novel two, and then graphic novel three. If I remember right, we were kind of like let loose to kind of do whatever we want. I think
Yeah.
if I
Okay.
remember right, but yeah, I always recommend those books to people who are kind of like, I don't like know where to get started, or like I know I want to do this, but I don't have like, I wish I had like a kind of like a step-by-step thing I should be doing. I feel like those textbooks they were so helpful for me as someone who was, because a big reason I went to school was because I was kind of like, I know I want to do this, but I have no idea
Yeah.
how to get started or how to like get myself out there. And I think if you don't necessarily want to go to college per se, like reading those textbooks and following them and following the exercises and the lessons is like a good um a best bet for you.
Nice. Nice. I like that. So let's talk a little bit about Manu and where the book came from. Where
Yeah.
where did the book come from?
Where did the book come from? I it's started like maybe 2 years out of school, and I was kind of like, I was doing little comic zines and very, very short stories, and self-publishing.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I always wanted to write a graphic novel. So I was kind of, and I was like pitching to publishers and stuff, and I wasn't getting any responses. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to plan this and I'm going to do it myself, and I'm going to self-publish it myself. And I have actually this is how Manu started. It was like a regular little zine that I would sell at
Yeah.
comic festivals, and um like I would consign at comic book shops around here in New York.
Yeah.
And I think MANU was consigned, but I might be getting mixed up. But that's how it really got started. And so it was already something that I was planning to try and like complete as a book.
Yeah.
And I was going to self-publish it. And around that time, Scholastic was having a contest called Get Published by Scholastic. And it was open for people who had never been published before, emerging artists. So I was like, you know what? I have this outline. I have essentially the first chapter already done. Let me just send it in and see what happens. And I won the contest. And
That's
now,
amazing.
yeah,
That's amazing. That must have felt so good, huh?
yeah, it was really crazy. Like up until like right maybe not right now, but like it was like I can't like it felt like a dream essentially, you
Yeah.
know. I couldn't believe it. I was like, if until I have the finished book, I'm not gonna believe it. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Do you know how many people entered? Do you have any idea? Like
Um
they pick you out of 1,000 people, out of 10,000 people?
I can't say for sure. I know they told us like
Yeah.
when they first told us the news, but I forgot the
Yeah.
number. It was I know it was we were two winners, but I don't know how many people in general. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, that's great though. I mean that's great that it really stood out that way. You had already done basically the first chapter. Is it literally the first chapter in the book, or is it
It's like the first 12 pages,
okay?
up until this page where
Mm-hmm.
she gets in trouble. And then the
Mm-hmm.
rest is
Mm-hmm.
like I guess new art that
Yeah.
I started drawing for specifically for the graphic novel.
Yeah. And did you have to redraw anything from that first one at all, or is it all good to go?
Um I think the only panel that I really kind of redrew was on page I don't have it's this page when the mango is starting. Whoop, yeah, this one. Because like um someone had mentioned like, can you really emphasize like the crack
Yeah. Yeah.
her her getting hurt. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, and I had to redraw it and like make it a little more obvious that like that she was in like I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Like the problem in the scene, or like sorry, I'm
No,
blanking
no,
on the
that's
final
no,
word.
that's right. Go ahead. The problem, the conflict in the scene was.
It was like the danger, I guess, is what I'm looking
Yeah.
for, you know, because yeah, the danger that is going on and like how serious, you know, like and it's like a little precursor to like what the danger and the seriousness that happens
Yeah. No, that
in the
that makes a lot
future.
of sense. So as you uh, went forward after this, the next point you have an editor, right? And so, was it? Did they give you good notes? Was it because you'd been working on your comics before by yourself? Was it hard to sort of get in the groove with working with another person, or like how did that work out?
Um, not Not so much. I think it was because I had gone to school, and like in class, they critique is a huge part
Yeah,
of the classes. So I feel like that prepared me to work with an editor.
yeah,
You know, because like my professors, they especially my graphic novel courses, they would um really hammer out like the story, the art in each panel,
yeah.
the page layout. You know, we would go over that with a very fine tooth comb, and um, so I feel like working professionally, like with an editor and a publisher, like they were, it was they were a lot more lenient than my professors were, which which I'm like thinking about it now. I'm just like, oh wow, okay. I mean, in a way that's good, you know, because like I think as a student, especially now, I'm teaching. I taught my first illustration course this past semester, um, and I'm just thinking back as a student and being like, oh my god, like everything has to be perfect, and like it has, you know, like you get so much, you get so worried about like, or at least I do, about what the person's gonna say and being absolutely correct, and it it wasn't like that in the real world. Like there, of course, there are like edits like that where it's like, can you really emphasize this? Like,
Yeah.
I think it needs that that panel of her getting hurt needs to be emphasized a little more. Like like you do get little things like that,
Yeah.
but yeah, in school it was like we really hammered it out. We yeah, we went through we would go through every panel, the composition in every panel,
Yeah.
and that in itself is like great, like, you know, to be able to go through really the fundamentals of comics and what
Yeah.
makes everything work. You don't think about these things like
Sure.
when you're reading about it.
Sure.
But yeah, I thought I didn't it was a smooth transition, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, the cartoonist doesn't draw attention to the problem solving, right? That's kind of the whole magic of comics, you know.
Yeah.
So where did the idea for Manu come from?
I knew I wanted to like do a whole book about like witches and like school. Like I wanted to do something with like young girls and like their witches and like their kind, it's like, I guess I wanted to do kind of like a coming of age story about like a girl who's like clumsily growing up and like growing into her talent essentially. So that was like kind of like the bedrock of the story of Manu, and then the from there on it was kind of like hammering out like the locations, the time period, um I guess the character personalities and dynamics themselves, that kind of stuff. And in the beginning, Manu started as like it was like young girls at in a school, like an all girls school, kind of like how it is. But they were kind of like traditional, like American, like Salem witch trial witches, like with the pointy hats and like a broom and stuff like
Right.
that. Um, and um, and I showed like the first sketches like to my friends, because that's another really important part of like comic making too, is like sharing it with other people and getting their opinion and kind of being like, this makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you? Does this read well to you? And one of my very close friends, he kind of gave me this like very bluntly honest, like, I feel like I've seen this before. Like, is there something like you can change up about this to make it like different and make it like you? And I was kind of like, yeah, you're right. And that kind of made me go through like this intense brainstorming where I was like, why do I like this kind of stuff? Like, where is this coming from? Because I've always been drawn to like fantasy and magic, but I feel like I didn't really know why. It just kind of felt like natural. Um, and it kind of clicked that I was like, oh, this has been like ingrained in me, like from my Dominican culture. Because at least in my family, it's like we do this thing where like it's like Roman Catholicism and like these supernatural elements, these superstitions, like ghosts, like they're so deeply intertwined with each
Sure.
other that it's like just become, it feels like it's become part of our culture.
Mhm.
And I think that's what draws me to that kind of media and those kinds of stories, is because I've grown up with that, like hearing that in my family, and like these kind, like my dad and my grandfather love telling ghost stories.
Mhm.
um they feel like they've seen and felt ghosts around them. So, and my partner, the same thing with her family. And when I was doing research like for this book, like I would talk to my Latinx friends and they kind of echoed that, like, oh yeah, we have things like that in our culture too, where the supernatural is like deeply, deeply intertwined in our culture and the little nuances of stuff that we do. So once I made that realization, I kind of like zeroed in on it, and I tried to build this world and these rules around those ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. It's really funny because when we get advanced copies of books to look at them ahead of time,
Yeah,
to decide like what we're going to pick for the club. And when I first saw this, I did the flip through, where you just kind of do that.
yeah,
And I thought, oh, it's set in a nunnery. And I bet it's really religious, right?
yeah,
Like it wasn't
yeah,
until I read it that I went, oh no, not at all. It's not. I mean, it has religiosity in it, but it's not. I thought it was like. I thought it was a very different book until I read it.
yeah.
And I really liked what I read. I enjoyed the world building, and I enjoyed. Yeah. So how much of this is cultural background, and how much of this is new world building?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, I kind of like off the top of my head, I would want to say it's like maybe like 75% new stuff. I think I
Wow.
feel like
Wow.
that's kind of what I'm
Wow.
leaning
Yeah.
towards, just because
Uh-huh.
like I feel like kind of like how you said, like on the surface it kind of looks very religious,
Yeah.
but like the reason why I give it such a high percentage is because um like stuff like them, like Manu doing weird hand motions, and like it's like they're like very like things like the incest and like the statues of the saints and them having different elemental powers. um those are, no, not elemental powers. I was gonna say elemental powers is kind of like a new thing that
Mm-hmm.
I attached to it, but like the saints, the incest, some of the little incantations, it's like I try to draw from real things, like real little rituals that
Yeah.
I've observed, and I've heard from my friends who they also observed in their own cultures. But at the same, it's like I try to use that as like a
The
basis,
springboard.
and then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
try to put a spin on it, like
Yeah.
so that it feels like it could be that part of that, but it's not.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
I
that
hope
makes
it
a
does.
tremendous amount of sense. That's why I asked the question, because it felt sincere,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I think that's part of it. I really liked the sort of the magical world, and the way you sort of built things around there. And we really love the little demon baby guy. We love that little guy so much. So cute. Um for a demon, that is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the how about the parts about transforming into animals? Is that a cultural thing, or is that your own original?
No, that's a cultural thing too.
Okay.
That's like because there are like rumors and like there are rumors of like people seeing women turn into owls or
Right.
birds, and those are witches. So
Right.
that is something that I plucked
I see.
right
Okay.
from
Hmm.
the culture.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Have you personally been to the Dominican Republic, or
No,
no?
that's something. When I found out that I was chosen to write,
Yeah.
I desperately wanted to go there
Yeah.
to do research
Yeah.
and take pictures, but I couldn't in the end. So I tried really hard to try and make it as authentic, to make um, the forest, the town feel as closely as I could.
Yeah.
I kind of did this isn't doing justice, but I would use Google Maps a lot and like
Sure.
kind of just do virtually walking around like the cities and
Yeah.
as much as Google Maps would allow.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and doing research like what kind of animals live there, what kind of plants grow there and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Nice. Well, maybe you'll be able to get to go in the future.
Yeah, that's definitely something as I don't know anytime soon with how things are, but that is something that I need to do
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. How so that's actually a question. How long ago did you start this book? When did you win the contest? That was like what, 3 years ago? It was
Yeah,
pre-pandemic,
it
right?
was pre-pandemic. It was like
Yeah.
2017, like late 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they what did they, I mean, did they immediately give you a contract? Was there a bunch of negotiation? How did it work?
Um yeah, they if I remember right, it was pretty quick, like maybe a month or two that I
Mhm.
signed.
Yeah.
I was new. I was I was like a baby,
Yeah.
so I even though I'd been out of school um for 2 years. I mean, saying that out loud, it kind of seems like a lot of time, but it really wasn't. Those two
Right.
years, I was kind of doing self publishing and trying to establish myself. So even at that time, like I was kind of like, yeah, whatever, I'll sign anything. If it like, like I'm being published, I'll sign anything,
Right.
So it's like I read my contract, but like
Yeah.
I didn't really understand it 100%. So it wasn't until like after that and like after um I guess like the publicity or some if that's the right way to say it. It's like that's when I got an agent and I started or people started approaching me to represent me and things like
Yeah.
that. And I was getting into the nitty-gritty of being um like a freelancer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 I would say to anybody watching at home, if you get a contract, have a lawyer read it just in case. Just in case. I'm
yeah,
I'm pretty confident the Scholastic is not pulling any shenanigans,
no,
but always have a lawyer read your contract, kids, before you sign them. Always.
yeah.
Um, that's funny. So how fast were you expected to start working on it? I mean, was it like we want to have a book from you in a year or less, more?
Well, in my contract, it was like 2 years for
Okay.
the final art was due in 2 years, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. And the and I didn't get it in on time, which was fine. Like they were super accommodating. They were like I couldn't have asked to work with a better team. Like they were super understanding. Um, I not only did I apply for this contest, I also applied to graduate school to become a children's librarian. And I was kind of
Oh,
like,
wow.
okay, whatever I get, whichever path the wind is blowing me in,
Right.
I'll go. And
Right.
then, of course, the wind was blowing me in both directions because I also got into grad school. And I was just like, well, great. I mean, in the end, it all worked out. But essentially, in the end, I also had to like get another year extension to
Yeah.
finish the art of the book, which all worked out. Um,
And so you did go to grad school to become a children's librarian as well?
yeah, I'm a
Nice.
children's librarian right now. Yeah,
Oh, that's
it's
awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. So you're like a full or part-time children's librarian, and then you're working on graphic novels when when your friends are all going out and you have to stay at home and draw, right?
Yeah, I mean that's how it was when I was doing this. It's like
Right,
I
right.
I'd go to work. I mean, I'm still working part time,
Yeah.
because I'm a librarian part time. I'm part time teaching illustration, and then now I'm also getting started on my next project. So it's like I have three jobs right
So it's a
now.
lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, but the end goal is to be a librarian either full time or part time, and then either part time. I mean, part time cartoonist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you just since we don't usually get librarians on, what do you like about being a librarian? What's the thing that makes you really excited by that?
I in undergrad, I worked. I wasn't a librarian because you need a master's, but in
Right.
undergrad, I was like a page, which is just like kind of like entry level. You put the books back.
Okay.
You help with very very like basic like directional questions. Um, you help the library. I would help the librarians when they needed me to, like picking out books, and I really liked. I loved it. I think I worked for 3 or 4 years as a page, and I was really close to the children's librarian who was there. I was really close to my fellow pages, and I just loved being there. Um, and there's a, it's like it was that, and it was also like um, I wanted to do something that was kind of related to comics, and librarianship is definitely one of those career paths. Like
Sure.
we do need more librarians who are like advocates for graphic novels, for
Yeah.
comics, visual literacy.
Yeah.
So when I was like doing research, like do I want to do this? One of my mentor for I had also gotten a grant from the Chicago Comic Arts Festival, KATT, and they paired me up with a cartoon librarian, um, and she kind of really helped me figure out like that I wanted to do this and she told me flat out like like things are better but they need to keep getting better. When I was in school, comics were kind of treated with like this stigma of being like not real literature, or like
Yeah.
being less than, just like kind of junk
Yeah.
for your brain kind of thing.
Yeah. Kelly,
So,
I'm old. I've owned a comic book store for 30 something years, so I know exactly what you're talking about. By all means, I remember a time in this country where people thought the comics were just for illiterates and fools, and it was the
yeah,
fastest way to, in another media, to show that a character was not smart by having a comic book rolled up in their back pocket.
yeah,
So yeah, the the
yeah,
the, the climate change, and honestly, so much of the credit goes to Scholastic, I think, and for picking up Bone, and bringing Bone out in graphic novel form, because that really started to change a lot of people's minds, and then Raina comes along, Dave
yeah,
Pilkey. It's amazing actually how much the climate has changed, and how much of it comes from librarians and schools,
yeah,
and teachers and educators who recognize that kids love reading. Kids love to read, but a lot of kids feel pressure from pure prose, and when you give
yeah,
them comics, it's still reading. This is just as much reading as anything else, but it makes it
yeah.
easier on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I was I was definitely one of those kids, and that was like part of the reason why I was like, do I want to do this and am I sure? And it wasn't until I got deeper into my program, into the library science program, I was so insecure because I was like, I don't I don't I felt like I wasn't a reader even as an adult. I feel like I still have some insecurities about that. Um, like I gravitated towards comics and graphic novels because it was such a chore for me as a kid to read prose. I would feel like it was like a struggle for me to read it. Like I could read like textbooks and things like things that were kind of like blunt, but
Sure.
like prose where the where there's like metaphors and similes and like
Yeah.
you write something flowery. It's like, what are they trying to communicate with me? I would feel like there were things that I was missing and I'd have to read over and over again. And
Yeah.
it kind of it definitely created an experience where I was just like, I don't want to do this for
Yeah.
fun,
Yeah, you get
So
anxious about it. You get nervous about reading, which is,
yeah,
is the opposite of what reading should be, right? Reading should be totally enjoyable and fun.
Yeah. So when I went to the library science program and they talked about this, they would talk about visual literacy, and there are people who are textual learners and
Yep,
visual learners,
yep,
and and um luckily I was in a program where they fully embraced graphic novels and
yeah,
reading, and that was just like, oh my god, thank god.
yeah,
Like that was another like kind of come to God moment where I was just
yeah,
like, oh, this whole entire time I've been like a visual learner.
yeah,
That's what my strength is, visual literacy. That's why I've had this struggle and this insecurity my whole life. So yeah, all those things led me to be a librarian too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this. Are there do you think that how you've made comics subsequently have been influenced by being a librarian and working with kids and seeing what it is the kids like to read? Do you know what I mean? Like, or do you think you still would have made the same comics in the same way without that?
Um, I mean, I would say mm, maybe because I was writing and making Manu like at the same time that I was in my program.
Yeah,
So like it is possible, but I feel like it was kind of late in the game
yeah,
already. Like I was kind of like inking already by that time, the time that it happened. Um, I feel like now yeah, definitely.
yeah,
I feel like it's given me a better understanding of like, oh, why do not only I like this kind of stuff? Like, why do other people like this specifically? Because that's kind of that's a lot of what you learn, or what I learned in library school is like what appeals to readers, like why do certain genres appeal to certain people, um like what are the elements in a story that draw people in, and what do you have to look out for. Um so yeah, I would say now, like going into this, like the future projects that I'm about to dive into, like
yeah,
yeah, definitely, like it kind of adds another dimension that I have to think about
yeah,
as a writer. um but for at least for Manu, at least it was like I was kind of learning these things at the same time as I was making the book. And I had written like my script and my outline and my script already. So um I yeah.
yeah. How much of a full script do you write? Do you write like really detailed, or do you write kind of very loosely because it's clear in your head?
um I kind of I'm like I have like a sample script open in the background, and I'm kind of like, do I write a lot? I feel like it's just
Well,
a I feel like
do you want to put it up and we
yeah.
can see?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good idea.
I've done a few of these interviews before.
Can you see it?
Yeah, make that the dominant pen. Yeah,
Yeah, so this is like a kind of little thing that I
hold on. There
prepared.
it goes. Very good. So they're like just kind of like bullet points, basically. It looks like
Yeah,
that.
this is
Are,
like
mhm,
a scan
yeah.
from my one of my many notebooks,
Hmm.
where that's kind of where it starts off as, is just like very quick bullet points. If um there's something that, like an expression or like a pose that I can't really put into words at the
Hmm.
moment, I'll draw
Hmm.
it on the
Hmm.
side.
Hmm.
Um, and this is like a screenshot of one of my script page
Yep. Yep.
scripts. So like you can see, I feel like I don't know, I feel like it's kind of an in between because it's like
Yeah.
very I guess it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
too detailed.
And then after that, do you go to thumbnails? Is that the next step? Yep.
Yeah, this is
Thumbnails.
an example of my
Hmm.
thumbnails.
Hmm.
Um I thought they were really loose, but I've had people tell me that they look like pencils more
Uh-huh.
than thumbnails. But yeah, that's a sample of one of my thumbnails.
What
Um,
kind of a book are you working in? Is it like a notebook, or are you drawing on typewriter paper, or?
yeah, I take a piece of copy paper and I
Mhm.
fold it in half, and then
Okay,
I draw one page on there. But lately, I also started working with graph paper, because it helps me like divide the page, like helps me with the page layout a little more.
sure.
Um, yeah, like getting the kind of perfect panel
Mhm.
shapes. Yeah, and then this is like the final ink drawing, and then the next step would be coloring everything in.
Yeah. Do Ben, you can go back to the two shot for us. Do you do everything physically on pen and paper?
I do everything up to my thumbnails in pen. I mean,
Okay.
with pencil and paper, and then I scan them, and then on the computer, I'll ink them and color
So
it
you're
in.
so you're scanning your layout? Is that
Oh no, I'm scanning my thumbnails like with
you,
the little
oh, interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. So that's interesting. Okay. So you're inking over that. That's interesting. You're not doing a redraw step. That's
No.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of how I work, I guess.
No, no. There's
Or
there's
how
not
I
a,
like
there's
to work.
never a wrong way to make art. So I was just curious because I don't know that I've heard someone do that before. But that's
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Um, and so you're inking digitally then.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And why is that? Out of curiosity.
Um I feel like for me, because when I first started making comics, I did ink like with I used a brush a lot, and then I would use like a micron pen for very very um fine details. Um and I would type my lettering and then trace over it with a pen, and then scan that and put it in the word bubbles,
Yeah.
just so they could be very neat, because sometimes my writing is leaves much to be desired. Um, but and I've thought about going back, and maybe I will try, because I do want to get back into like a kind of like a headspace that I had when I was coming out of school. So I feel like picking up like a brush again, and trying to do comics like that for a little, at least like maybe another mini kind of comic like
Yeah.
that. But like, just being kind of like honest, it does give me like a lot of anxiety to like ink with traditional materials, because
Right.
it's like I'm so worried about messing it up,
Right.
and um yeah, I think that's the biggest like fear for me, is like messing up the page and like messing up my pencils. But it's something that I do desperately like want to get over. So that's
Yeah.
kind of why I want to try and do it again, like to kind of get over that fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really like the looseness of your pencils. There was a lot of energy in there that I
Yeah.
thought was very nice. So yeah.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. So you're laying out your own lettering then?
Um what, like for this book, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. In Manu.
um for Manu, I made my own font, and then like
Mhm.
with my with my own handwriting,
Yeah.
like I made a font, and then I used that throughout the book.
Uh-huh.
um but yeah, for like um my older comics, like um I would, because I had problems like getting it straight, like in a straight line, getting
Sure.
like a nice amount of space between the words. So I would like um do it like on Photoshop. I would type
Yeah.
out everything and make it like the right shape, the right size, and then print that out. And then with my light box, I would put like a piece of Bristol over it and then trace it. So it was still like my own hand, but like I really wanted that readability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it looks very nice. Did you color it yourself as well, or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks.
Was that at all challenging? Just because it's a different headspace than.
Yeah, it is. um, sometimes it is, because it's like what helped me is that I had a color palette, and I tried very, very hard to stay within that limitation. Like, okay, I'm only going to use these. I had like 3 kinds of blues. I'm only going to use these kinds of blues. I'm only going to use these kinds of greens,
Right.
etc., etc. And I feel like the challenge is like finding out, like, it's like, this is a new, like, this is like a new prop or something, or like a new location. Like, how am I going to fit this color palette in there? Does that make sense? It's
No,
like,
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah. So that's where the challenge comes in, because it's just like, I don't know where to put these colors. I don't know how these, like, I feel like it's constantly finding, it's like a puzzle, and you constantly have to rearrange everything when the time calls for it. So it is it's like you're right. It's a totally different headspace.
Yeah. Interesting. That is super interesting. What was I gonna ask? Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. Have you read Dennis the Menace comics? Are you a fan of that at all? Because there's something about Manu that really kind of made me think of Dennis in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's like, I think they're like one panel, right?
Yeah,
They're just
most of the
one.
time. Yeah, most of the
Yeah,
time.
I remember. It's like, I hope it is Dennis the Menace, and it's not something else that I'm thinking of. Because I would read every day when I was a kid. My dad would buy the newspaper, and I would read everything that was there. And I feel like Dennis the Menace was in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the mischievousness, just the troublemakerness.
Mhm.
Unless that's more autobiographical.
It is. But it's like it's like Manu is kind of based on like the best friends that I've had consistently, and and the people that I'm drawn to, that I find myself drawn to, like the class clowns and like
Uh-huh.
the mischievous kind of people. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's mostly where that comes from. But I do remember reading Dennis the Menace too.
Yeah.
Like, I would also say like Bart Simpson.
Sure.
Yeah, those are like Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
She was one of my favorite characters growing up.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm sorry. I aimed my reference a little too old. I'm sorry.
no, I mean, it's like I said, I I do remember reading Dennis the Menace, but
Yeah.
maybe it's just like a whole clump of all those different people together.
Sure. Yeah. It's mostly because you said you like the newspaper cartoons,
Yeah.
so that yeah. Then my other question was, I have a black and white, most of the book in black and white,
Yeah.
and in most of the book, Josephina's hair appeared to be blonde, or at least some color that you were going to fill in a color, and
Yeah.
then it becomes dark hair in the actual book. What happened there?
Well, it's like, it was just like, for characters like that, it was kind of like, I was still thinking about like the combinations, the different character combinations I was going to do. Um and Josefina was kind of one of those characters where I was still not sure, like, do I want to give her brown hair? Do I want to give her black hair? Like, I wasn't sure what what color combination I wanted to make everybody. It was just unfinished, like an example of unfinished work, you know, and me still like thinking about yeah, the design of everybody still.
It's well, yeah. I mean, it's funny because I guess unfinished. Otherwise, those pages were immaculate and finished. And so I guess you must have at some point gone through and spent a week inking in her hair. Like,
Yeah.
just doing that, just like inking in the hair. Oh my gosh.
I mean, not it was like the way that I kind of color is like I lay down the flat colors, and then and the flat colors are just like it's essentially like you just kind of pick random colors and you just fill in the spaces,
Mm.
and the
You just
idea
you
is
picked
supposed to
black
be
then.
like
Yeah.
what? Oh,
So you just picked black as the fill-in color?
no, it was like it can be any kind of color. Like I mean, in the end, I did switch it to black, but
Yeah.
there was like a like when I first started coloring and everything, I was kind of like, how does this look? Like I was still trying to figure out like the characters and my color palette. So it was like testing like what looks best, what fits the character,
Yeah.
what makes like a nice like silhouette, like those kind of factors, and just switching them out. And flat colors allows you to do that really easily. Like it's just selecting it on Photoshop and then swapping out and seeing how it looks.
Yeah.
So in the end, I was gonna have to color in her hair with something. So it wasn't that. It was just like spending like maybe a day or two, or maybe more, like just being like, oh, does this look good? Does that look good? Etc. Rinse and
It's
repeat.
it's funny because in my head when I was reading the book in black and white, I pictured her as a blonde and because it
Yeah.
was just open space.
Hmm.
It's funny and it doesn't really matter. All right, so let's start to wrap this up. I got two more questions for you. The first one shall be what's coming up next? Is there going to be more? You got another one of these coming? Is there something you can plug? Can you even talk about it? Maybe you can't talk about it. I don't know.
Um, that's a good question. I feel like I can talk. I'll give a little hint of it because it's still like it's still very much in its infancy, you
Mhm.
know. Anyway, but it's like I'm actually like reworking something I had pitched when I got out of school, and I'm kind of like um just like hammering because it's like it's very much like a student project. So I'm kind of like going back and like smoothing out the edges and like
Mhm.
kind of working on the story. It's like it's I feel I want to say it's in the same vein as Manu. Like maybe it can be like a spiritual prequel to Manu. It's like a fairy like a twist what's it called? It's like a fairy tale with a twist, like a modern
Okay.
twist kind of
Okay.
story. Um so yeah, and it's like aimed a little bit for people for like I don't want to say young adult because
Uh
it's a
huh.
little too like cute for young adults. I want to say like by the time it comes out, the fans of Manu are it's gonna be for them, you know, like they're gonna be a little bit older, but not that much older. So hopefully they'll really enjoy it when it comes out.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. So no more menu. I was kind of thinking you had another book in you.
It's like I'm not gonna I won't lie and say that I didn't think about doing. It's just that like in this moment I can't it's like there are little nuggets of where to take these characters further, but they're not fully fleshed out yet. So maybe in the future I can think of a better story for them.
Okay.
But right now I can't really if that makes sense. I can't really see a whole. I see like the beginning, but the middle and the end are like a question mark.
Sure.
Um, yeah.
Sure. No, it makes sense. I just feel like there's more. I feel like there's there's something else that you can do in this world and with these
Yeah.
characters, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel that way too. It's just like it's just a matter of me really figuring it out.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I people have asked me for it, so I
uh-huh,
feel like I should really sit down and think about it.
yeah,
Think about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great though. All right, and then as the last question,
Yeah.
and you are probably well positioned to answer this. Um, we've got a lot of, you know, this is it's a series of interviews that we do with cartoonists. We talk to an awful lot of people. We're somewhere around 250 here, and one of the group of people who watch this are people who want to make comics. But what I hear a lot from people is, I would like to make comics, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. What's the first thing I should do? How do I
Mhm.
get into comics? What do you have to say, Kelly?
I say just do it. Like that's kind of um that's been I feel like that mindset is what got me here ultimately because like that's what I've been trying to do. You know, like the advice that I got in school was apply to everything, do whatever it is that you want to do, just do it. And when I got out of school, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I applied to as many comic fests as I could. I spent a lot of time just writing and making the kind of comics and ideas that just popped into my head, and I just did it. And applying for grants, applying to open calls from publishers. I tried pitching to different publishers, and until the Scholastic contest, I would get rejected. So it's like that's my number one for people who ask me like, what should I do? Like, where should I get started? Is just make what it is that you want to make. It's getting started is so hard. I know, but like you just have to break through that mold of like I don't I'm just starting out. I don't know what to do. You just have to break through and say, screw it. I'm going to forget it. I'm going to start and I'm going to do what I want to do. And another piece of advice that I like to give that I did, and I feel like it was so great, like it was such a good piece of advice, was to find an artist that you admire who is like one step on the staircase higher than you, and follow them on like social media, keep track of them, become friends with them, and use that as like a kind of like follow the path that they're making, and use that same path for yourself, if that makes sense. Because
Sure.
like it's like we all have these cartoonists who like we idolize, and we're just like, I want to be just like them. But they're so high up, and like sometimes you get so intimidated, like, oh my god, like how the heck am I going to get all the way up there? They're all the way up there. But if you find an artist who is just like, if you know, like if the staircase, that your ideal artist is all the way at the top of the staircase, and you can find someone who's a little bit higher than you, and see like, oh, they're applying to Kickstarters, they're doing these kinds of jobs, they're applying to these kinds of comic book festivals. Just you I would use their what they're doing as an example and try to emulate that.
Yeah.
um yeah, and I did that when I got out of school. Like I had a couple of a few artists that I would follow, and like they apply to comic anthologies on Kickstarter, so I started doing that. And I that's where I kind of got my foot in, like in the publishing world, is getting into these Kickstarter projects. Um and yeah, that's a strategy that helped me immensely. And also
Oh, I
pick
like.
up writing words, drawing pictures, mastering comics.
Yeah.
Those textbooks, they really go through the fundamentals of making comics. And
Yeah.
mastering comics, towards the end they get into like how to self-publish your work, how to create like an online persona, how to market yourself, if you want to get into like mainstream publishing. So that's what I recommend too.
Very
Yeah.
good. Very good.
Thanks.
I have to follow up. I have that with one thing. Who was your trailblazer? Who was the person you were stalking?
Stalking. Yeah, whenever I say that, I'm just like, please don't stalk people. That's not what I mean. Disclaimer.
No,
Asterisk,
I knew
don't
that
stalk.
wasn't what you meant. I
Yeah.
was trying to be funny. But who was your path maker?
My face is like getting hot because it's so
Oh.
it's not embarrassing, but it's like it was actually she's like one of my very best friends right now. It's Kat Fajardo. She's yeah, I just butchered her last name because I'm so nervous. But yeah, we actually went to the same high school together, which we found out like after we started being friends. But like she's just such an amazing cartoonist, and I admire her so much. So she was like one of the people that I found like on social media, and I was like, oh, I want to like that's who I want to be like. So yeah, like she would do Kickstarters and things like that, and I was like, you know what, I should start doing Kickstarters or trying out for Kickstarters, I should say. But yeah, we've become very good friends.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Well, I want to thank you for being here with us and talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
I really do. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a fantastic book. Ben, put me on a 1. Thanks very much for watching this episode. Put me on. Yeah. Come on. All right, professional show business. There we go. Hey, I'm on the 1. Hey, so if you're sitting there at home, you don't know what to read, you're looking for something that like this is a great book. It is fun, it is funny, it has got a mischievous girl, it has got magic, it has got action and adventure, it's got a whole lot of heart and great friendship. I really recommend this book. And I think it's really great. So that. Next month's book will be Otto, a Palindrama by John Agee. And he's going to be here in person, actually. He'll be sitting right here next to me, and we'll be able to have one of those conversations. Yay! Because he lives here in San Francisco. It's easy to do that. I would like to do some thanks. I would like to thank Ben for running the show. This is Ben's first show running the camera all by himself. So yay! Thank you, son. I would also like to thank my staff. I would like to thank Kat and Zoe and Katie for being the greatest staff that a bookstore can have, and allowing me to get in front of the camera and be a crazy person. And I want to thank all you kids sitting at home watching this. And yeah, your membership means a lot. And if you like the books, then that's even better. And then finally, I would like to thank for one more time. I would like to thank Kelly Fernandez for doing put us back. There we go. So thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for the book. I cannot wait to see what you come up with next. We're gonna love to read it.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for having me here. Yeah, enjoy your Sunday and happy holidays.
You as well. Okay, well, we'll talk to you guys next month.